Seal your lips. Lock the door to your mind. This is the first and most difficult command of the law of power. We live in a world that is addicted to noise, a world that demands you broadcast every thought, every plan, every breakfast, and every dream to a faceless audience. But I am here to tell you that this noise is the enemy of your creation. You have been told to speak your truth, to shout your dreams from the rooftops, to seek validation before you have even laid the first brick. And this is exactly why you are stuck. This is why the energy dissipates before it can harden into reality. True power, the kind of power that builds empires of steel like Carnegie, or illuminates the world like Edison, is born in the dark. It is born in the vacuum of silence. There is a physics to success that is as immutable as gravity. When you release the pressure of your desire through premature speech, you lower the voltage of your will. Think of a steam engine. If you open the valves and let the steam hiss out into the open air, you create a cloud of noise, a spectacle, a moment of attention, and then it vanishes. The engine does not move. But if you seal that vessel, if you contain that heat, if you refuse to let the steam escape, the pressure builds. It mounts. It becomes terrifyingly powerful. And eventually, it moves the wheels that move the world. You must become that vessel. The reason you have started a dozen projects and finished none, the reason you feel a momentary high when you tell your friends about your new business idea, only to wake up the next morning with no drive to execute, is simple psychology. When you announce your plans, your brain releases a flood of dopamine. It gives you the premature satisfaction of a job well done. You trick your subconscious into believing the mountain has already been climbed. And so the hunger dies. The edge dulls. You traded the gold of realization for the copper of applause. You must understand the nature of the seed. Look at the oak tree. Before it can split the earth and tower over the forest, it must spend its most critical season underground, buried, hidden, compressed by the weight of the soil. If you were to dig up that seed every day to show your neighbors how much it is growing, you would kill it. You would expose its delicate roots to the harsh light before they are ready to bear it. Your ambition is that seed. Your definite chief aim is that potential oak. It requires the darkness of privacy to germinate. It requires the nutrients of silence to develop a root system strong enough to hold the weight of the fortune you are asking for. Napoleon Hill observed this in the greatest men of his time. He sat across from Henry Ford, a man who was often described as cold or distant. But Ford was not cold, he was contained. He understood that his vision for a horseless carriage, for a moving assembly line, was so radical, so fragile in its infancy, that to speak of it to small minds would be to invite the frost of doubt. He did not debate his vision with the skeptics. He did not ask for permission. He built in silence until the results were so undeniable that they drowned out the noise of his critics. This is the silent law of infinite wealth. It dictates that you must hold the charge. You must learn to carry a secret. There is a distinct, vibrating power in walking through a room full of people, knowing that you are building something massive, something that will change your life, and saying absolutely nothing about it. That secret becomes a magnetic force. It changes your posture. It changes the look in your eye. People will sense a gravity about you, a density of purpose. They will not know what you are doing, but they will know you are a force to be reckoned with. This is the aura of the king, the general, the master industrialist. They do not gossip about their strategies. They execute them. You must stop seeking the permission of the world to be great. Every time you tell a friend who is living in mediocrity about your plan to ascend to fortune, you are subconsciously asking, is this okay? Do you think I can do this? And even if they say yes, their energy, their doubt, their limited paradigm attaches itself to your vision like a parasite. You are introducing resistance where there should be flow. Why would you hand the blueprint of your castle to someone who has never laid a brick? Why would you cast your pearls before those who only know how to trample? You are building a temple. And the Holy of Holies, the inner sanctum where the transmutation of thought into gold happens, is for you and the infinite intelligence alone. This is not about isolation. It is about insulation. You must insulate your mind from the radio waves of poverty and fear. When you speak too soon, you open the door to the hypnotic rhythm of the masses, the drifting, aimless inertia that pulls everything back to the average. Imagine your desire as a chemical reaction. It needs a closed container to reach the critical temperature. If you keep opening the lid to check on it, to show it off, the heat escapes. You must learn to love the pressure. When you have a great idea and you feel that burning urge to pick up the phone, to post it on social media, to get that hit of likes and congratulations, stop. Swallow that urge. Let it burn in your chest. That burning is not pain, it is fuel. That is the raw material of resilience. Direct that energy not into your mouth, but into your hands. Put it into the plan. Put it into the work. Put it into the discipline. Let the results be the only noise you make. Let your bank account be the announcement. Let your lifestyle be the press release. Until then, you are a ghost. You are working the night shift of destiny. You are moving in the shadows, not because you are ashamed, but because you are strategic. The greatest victories in war are won by the armies that move undetected until the moment of impact. Be the submarine beneath the surface. Silent, deep, deadly focused. This silence also protects you from the devastation of the law of reversal. When you talk about a thing, you often talk the life out of it. Words are poor containers for the raw, spiritual electricity of a major ambition. When you try to explain a vision that was given to you by the infinite, you are trying to squeeze the ocean into a cup. You diminish it. You subject it to the clumsy tools of language and logic. When true vision transcends logic, the vision was given to you, not to them. It is your burden to carry and your blessing to birth. To expect others to see what you see before you have built it is a form of madness. It is an ego trap. You must become comfortable with being misunderstood. In fact, you should welcome it. If everyone understands what you are doing, you are not aiming high enough. If your plans make sense to the average mind, then your plans are average. Innovation, by definition, looks like insanity to the status quo. When you are silent, you protect yourself from the need to explain your insanity to people who are comfortable in their chains. You save that energy. You conserve that precious, finite mental capital, and you invest it where it yields interest. In the mastery of your craft, in the sharpening of your mind, in the steeling of your will. Consider the architect. Before a skyscraper scrapes the clouds, it exists for months, perhaps years, on paper, in meetings behind closed doors, in the mind of the creator. It is detailed down to the last rivet before the ground is ever broken. If the architect were to run into the street and describe the building to passers-by, they would look at the empty lot and laugh. They would see only dirt. But the architect sees the steel. He sees the glass. He sees the finished form. He does not need the validation of the pedestrian. He needs the discipline of the blueprint. Your silence is your blueprint phase. It is the time when you solidify your faith. And faith, as Hill taught us, is the only agency through which the thought impulse is translated into the physical equivalent. But faith is fragile in the beginning. It is like a candle flame in a windstorm. The opinions of others are that wind. Cup your hands around that flame. Let it grow until it becomes a torch, until it becomes a bonfire, until it becomes a conflagration that no wind can extinguish. Only then, when the fire is roaring, do you step back and let the world feel the heat. So, tonight, make a pact with yourself, a vow of silence regarding your next major move. Choose one big thing, your definite chief aim, and decide right now that you will not speak of it to a living soul who is not directly involved in its creation. Not your spouse, not your best friend, not your parents. Not yet. Hold it. Carry it. Let it weigh on you. Let that weight drive you into the ground of reality, forcing you to act. Watch how your productivity spikes. Watch how your focus sharpens. You are no longer dissipating your power, you are channeling it. You are becoming a dangerous vessel of intent. The world is noisy, be the quiet storm. The world is scattered, be the laser. The silence is not empty, it is full of answers, and it is waiting for you to listen. Now, as you descend into this silence, you begin to unlock the door to the most powerful workshop known to man, the subconscious mind. This is where the real work happens. This is the boiler room of the soul. When you stop talking to the outside world, you start talking to the inner world. And the inner world, unlike the skeptics and the doubters, has the power to bend reality. When you hold your vision in silence, you are essentially engaging in a continuous form of autosuggestion. You are looping the tape of your desire over and over again, impressing it upon the subconscious without the interference of contradictory vibrations. Hill taught that the subconscious mind works day and night, that it draws upon the forces of the infinite intelligence to bring about the transmutation of your desires. But it cannot work effectively if you are constantly introducing the static of other people's opinions. Every time you share your dream and someone sneers or looks confused or offers realistic advice, that doubt registers in your subconscious. It is a weed planted in your garden. By remaining silent, you act as the guardian of the gate. You ensure that the only seeds being planted in that fertile soil are the seeds of your own absolute conviction. You are creating a controlled environment, a laboratory, where the conditions for success are optimized. In this silence, your subconscious begins to weave a web of connections that you could never consciously orchestrate. You will find yourself waking up in the middle of the night with the exact solution to a problem that has plagued you for weeks. You will find yourself driven by a hunch to call a specific person, to turn down a specific street, to read a specific book. This is the still small voice that speaks only when the clamor of the ego is silenced. This is the state of flow that the great artists and inventors speak of. It is a trance, like engagement with the task at hand. When you are not worried about how you will describe your success to others, you are free to become the success. You are free to fail in private, to experiment, to look foolish, to pivot, to refine. This privacy is the incubator of genius. Edison failed 10,000 times in the silence of his laboratory. If he had live-streamed every failure, if he had to answer to a committee of critics for every broken filament, the light bulb would have never been born. He needed the privacy to be wrong so that he could eventually be right. You need that same privacy. You need the freedom to be messy in the pursuit of your masterpiece. The world judges the process, but it respects the result. So hide the process, hide the sweat, hide the doubt. Show them nothing but the finished steel. But be warned, this silence is not passive. It is the most active state you can inhabit. It is a militant focus. While you are silent, you are observing. You are watching the world with the eyes of a hawk. You are listening to what is not being said. You are studying the masters who came before you. You are reading the biographies of the titans, Rockefeller, Disney, Morgan. You are downloading their patterns into your own mind. You are building a cabinet of invisible counselors. As Hill practiced, you are imagining yourself sitting at the table with the greatest minds of history, submitting your problems to them in the quiet sanctuary of your imagination, and waiting for their answers. This mental transmutation is impossible in a crowd. It is impossible in the noise of social validation. It requires solitude. It requires you to be alone with your thoughts until your thoughts become clearer than the physical objects around you. You must reach a point where your vision is more real to you than the chair you are sitting in, more real than the balance in your bank account, more real than the job you hate. This level of clarity is the philosopher's stone. It turns the lead of your current circumstances into the gold of your destiny. And as you build this internal pressure, you will notice a shift in your external reality. The law of attraction, which is really the law of vibration, will begin to operate with terrifying speed. Because your signal is pure, because it is not mixed with the static of doubt or the interference of others, the universe receives a clear command. You are no longer asking, you are declaring. And the universe has no choice but to rearrange itself to match a vibration that is constant, clear, and charged with the emotion of absolute faith. You will begin to attract the resources you need. But here is the paradox. Even when the allies appear, even when the opportunities start to flow, you must maintain your discipline. You must not vomit your vision all over the first person who shows interest. You must test them. You must measure them. You are the keeper of the flame, and you do not hand a torch to someone who is only looking for a cigarette lighter. You wait for the ones who are ready to help you build the bonfire. This brings us to the only exception to the law of silence, the mastermind. Napoleon Hill was clear that no mind is complete by itself. You need the harmonic cooperation of other minds to amplify your power. But, and this is the but that destroys most people, the mastermind is not a social club. It is not a gossip circle. It is a sacred alliance of two or more people who are perfectly synchronized in spirit and purpose. You do not share your vision with the world. You share it only with the members of your mastermind. And you choose these members with more care than you choose your spouse. They must be people who vibrate at your level or higher. They must be people who understand the laws of success. When you speak to them, you are not leaking energy, you are multiplying it. It is like connecting batteries in a series. The voltage goes up, but until you find those people, you walk alone, and you walk in silence. Do not make the mistake of trying to convert the unbelievers. Do not try to drag your old friends up the mountain with you. They will only weigh you down, and their fear of heights will infect you. Leave them in the valley. If they belong on the peak, they will find their own way up. Your job is to climb. Your job is to breathe the thin air of discipline and keep putting one foot in front of the other. As you climb, you will face the testing time. This is the period where you have put in the work. You have kept the silence. You have held the faith, but the tangible results have not yet appeared. This is the valley of the shadow of death for the weak ambition. This is where the devil of doubt whispers, "It's not working. You're deluding yourself. Just give up and go back to the crowd." In this moment, your silence is your shield. If you had told everyone your plans, this is the moment they would ask, "Hey, how's that business going?" With a sarcastic smirk, they would reflect your lack of results back to you, compounding your doubt. But because you told no one, you are free from that external pressure. You only have to battle your own mind. And you can win that battle. You can win it by doubling down on your autosuggestion, by reminding yourself that the bamboo tree grows underground for 5 years before it breaks the surface. You are in the bamboo phase. You are building the root structure that will support a vertical ascent that will shock the world. Do not dig up the seed. Do not curse the soil. Water it with gratitude. Water it with work. Water it with the absolute. Unshakable, knowing that the harvest is inevitable. The silence allows you to pivot without shame. If a plan fails, and plans will fail, you do not have to issue a public retraction. You do not have to endure the "I told you so" from the peanut gallery. You simply adjust, you learn, you recalibrate, and you keep moving. You are fluid, you are formless, you are like water flowing around the obstacle unseen, unheard, but eroding the rock through persistence. This is the way of the Stoic. This is the way of the master. You become a fortress. Your emotions are not on display for the world to manipulate. You are self-contained. And in a world of people who are desperate for attention, desperate to be seen, the man who does not need to be seen is the most fascinating thing in the room. You become a mystery, and nature abhors a vacuum. People will be drawn to fill that mystery, bringing you opportunities, curiosity, and respect. They will wonder what you know that they don't. And the answer is you know yourself. You know your purpose. And you know that the distance between your dream and your reality is measured in silence and sweat. You are closing that gap inch by inch, day by day, in the dark while they sleep. And soon, very soon, the dawn will break. As the dawn approaches, the nature of your silence shifts. It transforms from the silence of incubation to the silence of execution. This is the phase where the potential energy you have stored, that massive pressure you have contained, begins to release into kinetic action. But notice, even now, the mouth remains shut. The hands do the talking. Action is the only language the physical world understands. You can affirm, you can visualize, you can plan, but until you move, nothing moves. The universe rewards motion. And because you haven't wasted your vitality talking about what you're going to do, you have a reserve of aggressive energy to actually do it. You attack your tasks with a ferocity that startles the competition. While they are busy networking, posturing, and debating, you are shipping. You are building. You are closing. Think of the great generals of history. They did not win battles by sending their battle plans to the enemy. They moved under the cover of night. They struck where they were least expected. Your marketplace, your industry, your life is the battlefield. Your competitors, whether they are other companies or simply the forces of resistance and mediocrity, are not waiting for you to succeed. They are waiting for you to slip. Do not give them the advantage of knowing your next move. Be unpredictable. When you are silent, you are hard to read. When you are hard to read, you are hard to beat. Let your results ambush the world. There is a profound psychological power in the sudden appearance of success. We know that there is no such thing as overnight success, that it is always years in the making. But to the outside world, because they didn't hear you complaining about the struggle, because they didn't hear you announcing every step, your ascent seems magical. It seems destined. This gives you an aura of inevitability. People want to back a winner. They want to be close to someone who seems to have the Midas touch. By hiding the struggle and revealing only the victory, you create a perception of competence that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Investors, partners, and allies are drawn to confidence. And there is no greater display of confidence than the man who does not feel the need to broadcast his every move. During this phase of massive action, you will encounter the drift. This is what Napoleon Hill described as the force that pulls 98% of people into a state of helplessness and passivity. The drift is the current of the river of life that flows toward failure. It is made up of the collective fears, laziness, and distractions of the masses. To swim against this, to swim toward the infinite wealth you desire, requires every ounce of your strength. If you open your mouth to complain, you swallow water. You lose your rhythm. You drift back. Keep your head down. Swim. Stroke after stroke. Discipline after discipline. The routine is your religion. The habit is your hymn. You wake up early not because you want to brag about it on the internet, but because the morning hours are the quietest, the closest you can get to the source of your power. You eat clean not for vanity, but for fuel. You read not to sound smart, but to sharpen your sword. Every action is instrumental. Every choice is binary. Does this take me toward the chief aim, or does it drift me away? And as you build, you will inevitably face the moment of crisis, the temporary defeat that Hill assures us is disguised as a misfortune. This is the moment where the machinery breaks, the funding falls through, the partner quits. It is the test of fire. The chatterbox collapses here. They run to their friends for sympathy. They post their grievances. They seek comfort in the collective victimhood. But you tell no one. You take that defeat into your private war room. You look it in the eye. You analyze it without emotion. You ask, what is the seed of equivalent benefit here? You transmute the anger into determination. You transmute the fear into focus. You fix the machine. You find new funding. You stand alone in the wreckage, and you rebuild it brick by silent brick. And when you emerge from that smoke, you are harder than iron. You have been tempered. This resilience creates a gravity well around you. You become the anchor in the storm for others. Because you do not panic aloud, those around you feel safe. This is the essence of leadership. The leader is the one who absorbs the chaos and radiates calm. You cannot radiate calm if you are using your words to amplify the chaos. Remember the story of the burning of the boats. When the ancient commanders landed on enemy shores, they burned their own ships. They cut off the retreat. They told their soldiers, we win or we die. They did not send a letter home saying, we might try to win, but if not, we'll be back for tea. They created a situation of absolute necessity. Your silence burns the boats. By not telling anyone, you deny yourself the cheap dopamine of sympathy if you fail. You deny yourself the least you tried pat on the back. You force yourself into a corner where success is the only exit. That pressure is what turns coal into diamonds. You are compressing your entire being into a singular point of focus. And as you approach the finish line, the silence becomes even more profound. It becomes the silence of the predator before the strike. It becomes the silence of the athlete in the zone. You are no longer thinking, you are being. And then it happens. The breakthrough, the tipping point. The contract is signed. The product launches. The debt is cleared. The fortune arrives. This is the quiet harvest. And when it comes, you will realize something profound. You will realize that the external reward, the money, the cars, the house, is secondary. The real wealth was the person you became in the silence. The real wealth was the self-mastery, the discipline, the unbreakable connection with infinite intelligence. You have forged a character that no market crash can destroy, that no thief can steal. You have become the source of wealth, not just the container of it. Now you can speak. But you will find that you no longer want to shout. You will speak with the quiet authority of one who knows. Your words will be few, but they will be heavy. They will carry the weight of gold. When you speak, people will lean in. They will listen. Because you are no longer speaking from theory. You are speaking from testimony. You have walked through the valley of silence and ascended the mountain of achievement. You have proven the law. So, look at your life right now. Look at the noise. Look at the leaks in your vessel. Look at the energy you are wasting on people who cannot see your vision. Close the valve. Cut the feed. Go dark. Take your dreams underground. Feed them with your work. Protect them with your life. Let them wonder where you went. Let them think you quit. Let them think you died. And then, when the time is right, let the shockwave of your success shake the ground beneath their feet. Win the morning. Win the dark. Win the war. Tell no one. Show everyone. This is the way. This is the law. The silence is waiting. Begin. And as you step into that arena of silence, you begin to encounter the raw, volatile fuel of your existence. Napoleon Hill called it the mystery of sex transmutation, But let us strip away the dated language and call it what it truly is, your vital life force. It is the biological imperative to create the burning, restless energy that most men waste in the pursuit of fleeting pleasure. When you shut your mouth, you stop leaking this energy. You stop dissipating your drive in the trivial pursuit of impressing others or chasing temporary highs. The silence acts as a dam. The water level rises, and for the first time in your life, you have a reservoir of power deep enough to turn the turbines of a major purpose. This is the secret of the geniuses you admire. Do you think Tesla or Da Vinci or Musk achieved what they did by working 9 to 5 and then numbing themselves with distractions? No, they took their most primal, aggressive, creative urges, the very energy that drives the species to reproduce, and they redirected it. They channeled that river into their work. They made love to their vision. When you are silent, this energy has nowhere else to go but into your obsession. It transforms your work from labor into art. It gives your voice a resonance that commands attention. It gives your eyes a piercing quality that looks through people, not at them. This is the magnetism that attracts wealth. Money is shy. It runs from the desperate and the depleted. But it rushes toward the vibrant, the charged, the man who is vibrating with a surplus of life. You must become an alchemist of this energy. When you feel that restlessness, that agitation, that desire to escape the boredom of the grind, do not scroll. Do not call a friend to complain. Do not seek a cheap dopamine hit. That agitation is gold waiting to be refined. Sit with it. Direct it at the problem you are solving. Pour it into the definite chief aim. You will find that you can work for 14 hours and feel more energized at the end than when you started. That is the state of flow. That is the infinite intelligence riding the wave of your biological drive. But energy without direction is chaos. This is why the silent man must also become the master of specialized knowledge. The world is drowning in general knowledge. It is cheap. It is everywhere. You can Google the answer to any trivia question in 3 seconds. That is not power. That is data. Power is organized knowledge directed toward a specific end. While the masses are consuming endless content, memorizing stats about sports teams, or arguing about politics they cannot control, you are in the shadows, sharpening a very specific blade. You are becoming the most dangerous person in your field because you know the one thing that matters. Henry Ford was once called an ignorant pacifist by a newspaper. He sued them. In the courtroom, the lawyers tried to humiliate him by asking him general knowledge questions. Who was Benedict Arnold? How many soldiers did the British send to America in 1776? Ford smiled. He looked at the lawyer and said, "I have a row of electric push buttons on my desk. If I want to know the answer to any of those questions, I push a button and a man comes who knows the answer. Why should I clutter my mind with general knowledge when I have men to handle that for me?" Ford understood the law. He did not need to be a walking encyclopedia. He needed to be the architect of the vision. In your silence, you must identify the specialized knowledge you lack. What is the one skill, the one piece of information, the one insight that stands between you and your fortune? Find it, hunt it down, devour it. While your competitors are noisy generalists, you become the silent specialist. You do not need to know everything. You need to know the right thing. And you need to know it better than anyone else. This creates a monopoly of value. When you are the only one who can solve a specific, high-value problem, you can name your price. The market pays for scarcity. Silence creates scarcity. Now, armed with energy and knowledge, you face the great filter, the decision. Hill analyzed 25,000 men and women who had experienced failure. He found that lack of decision was near the top of the list of 30 major causes of failure. Procrastination is the twin of fear. It is the thief of time, and it thrives on noise. When you tell everyone your plans, you invite a committee into your head. What if you fail? Maybe you should wait for the market to improve. My cousin tried that and lost his house. These voices create hesitation. And hesitation is death to momentum. The silent man decides quickly and changes his mind slowly. The noisy man decides slowly and changes his mind quickly. Which are you? When you are insulated by silence, you can hear the intuitive command of your own soul. You learn to trust your gut. When the opportunity arises, you strike. You do not conduct a poll. You do not ask for consensus. Greatness is never achieved by consensus. It is achieved by the boldness of a single individual who trusts their inner vision more than the outer reality. Look at the history of warfare, of business, of art. The victors are those who made a decision and burned the bridge behind them. They eliminated the possibility of retreat. When you keep your mouth shut, you are burning the bridge of validation. You are no longer acting to please an audience. You are acting to survive and conquer. This shifts your psychology from playing to not lose to playing to win. But let us be honest, the path is not a straight line. You will hit the wall. You will encounter the persistence test. There is a story of R.U. Darby, who caught gold fever in the gold rush days. He went west, staked a claim, and started digging. It was hard labor. But eventually, his pickaxe struck the shining ore. He covered the mine, returned home, raised the money for machinery, and went back to unearth his fortune. The first car of ore was shipped to a smelter. The returns proved they had one of the richest mines in Colorado. A few more cars of that ore would clear the debts. Then would come the big killing in profits. Down went the drills. Up went the hopes of Darby and his uncle. Then something happened. The vein of gold ore disappeared. They had come to the end of the rainbow, and the pot of gold was no longer there. They drilled on, desperately trying to pick up the vein again, all to no avail. Finally, they decided to quit. They sold the machinery to a junk man for a few $100s and took the train home. The junk man called in a mining engineer to look at the mine and do a little calculating. The engineer advised that the project had failed because the owners were not familiar with fault lines. His calculations showed that the vein would be found just 3 feet from where the Darbys had stopped drilling. 3 feet. Darby spent the rest of his life paying back the debts, haunted by the knowledge that he stopped 3 feet from gold. But here is the twist. Darby became a phenomenal success later in life selling insurance. Why? Because he told himself, I stopped 3 feet from gold, but I will never stop because men say no when I ask them to buy insurance. He transmuted his failure into a philosophy of persistence. You are digging right now. The silence is your mine. The dark is your tunnel. And there will be days when the vein disappears. There will be days when the silence feels like a tomb, when you feel foolish, when you feel alone, when the doubt screams so loud in your head that you want to open your mouth just to release the pressure, just to ask someone to tell you it's going to be okay. Do not stop digging. This is the testing time. The universe is checking your credentials. It is asking, do you really want this? Or are you just another tourist? The only way to prove you are worthy of the gold is to dig through the fault line. Most people quit when they meet with temporary defeat. They mistake a detour for a dead end. But you know the law. You know that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. You are looking for the seed, not the failure. In the silence, you can hear the truth. Failure is a trickster with a keen sense of irony and cunning. It takes great delight in tripping one when success is almost within reach. It is a test of your emotional stamina. When you are 3 feet from gold, the resistance is strongest. The night is darkest just before the dawn. If you had told everyone your timeline, if you had promised results by a certain date, The pressure of their judgment might force you to quit to save face. But because you are silent, you have the luxury of time. You have the luxury of persistence. You can keep digging until your fingers bleed, because no one is watching the clock but you. This persistence acts as a direct command to the infinite intelligence. It says, I am not going away. And eventually, the universe yields. It must yield. Nature cannot resist a force that does not acknowledge defeat. And as you persist, you engage the mastermind of the ages. You begin to realize that you are not digging alone. You are standing on the shoulders of every man and woman who ever refused to quit. You are channeling the spirit of Edison, who failed 10,000 times, of Lincoln, who lost election after election, of Disney, who was fired for lacking imagination. You are part of a silent brotherhood of the relentless. You feel their presence in the quiet hours of the morning. They are whispering to you, keep going. One more strike, one more call, one more rep, one more day. This connection gives you a strength that is not of this world. It is the sixth sense, the apex of Hill's philosophy. It is the moment when the accumulated pressure of your silence, your energy, your knowledge, and your persistence punches a hole through the fabric of ordinary reality and connects you to the source of all ideas, all wealth, all power. You begin to receive hunches, flashes of inspiration. You see the move before it happens. You know the market before it turns. You feel the yes before the question is asked. This is not magic. It is the result of a mind that has been disciplined, cleared of noise, and focused like a laser beam on a single point for a sustained period of time. You have become a receiver station for the infinite. And now the gold doesn't just appear. It flows. It rushes toward you like a river breaking a dam. The law of rhythm swings in your favor. The tide comes in. And because you built your ship in silence, because you caulked every seam with discipline, because you anchored it with faith, you float. You rise. While the noisy ones are swept away by the current or sink in their half-built rafts, you sail. But remember the final warning of the law. Even when the gold flows, even when the victory is won, the silence must remain your sanctuary. Success brings a new kind of noise, flattery, parasites, distractions. The ego will want to take credit. It will want to strut. Kill the ego. Stay in the workshop. Stay in the mind. The wealth is not the end. The wealth is merely the fuel for greater service, for larger visions, for heavier responsibilities. You have cracked the code. You have learned the silent law. Do not forget it in the intoxication of victory. Keep your counsel. Guard your mind. The journey never ends. The mountain only gets higher. The air gets thinner. The silence gets deeper. And you just keep climbing. You become the mountain. Tell no one. Show everyone. The work is done. The law is fulfilled. You are free. But freedom is not given, it is conquered. And the land you must conquer is the dark continent of your own fears. Napoleon Hill warned us of the 6 ghosts of fear that haunt the minds of men: the fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. These ghosts thrive on conversation. They feed on the what-ifs that you whisper to your friends in moments of weakness. They grow strong when you vocalize them. When you speak your fears, you give them a body. You invite them into the room. You pull up a chair for poverty and pour a drink for criticism. But when you are silent, you starve them. Consider the fear of criticism. This is the most common killer of genius. It is the voice that asks, "What will they say?" But here is the beauty of the silent law. If they do not know what you are doing, they cannot criticize it. You remove the target. You become invisible to their arrows. By the time they realize what you have built, you are already too high for their arrows to reach. You have bypassed the entire mechanism of social judgment. You have suffocated the ghost of criticism by denying it the oxygen of attention. And what of the fear of poverty? The noisy man talks about his bills, his debts, his lack. He affirms his poverty with every complaint. He programs his subconscious to look for scarcity. The silent man looks at his empty bank account and says nothing. He feels the hunger, and he lets that hunger sharpen his focus. He does not complain, he plans. He does not beg, he creates. He transmutes the fear of poverty into the drive for prosperity. He understands that his current circumstance is not a life sentence, it is just data. And data can be changed. In this silence, you will eventually meet the most powerful entity in the universe. Hill called it the other self. This is the version of you that emerges only when the ordinary self has reached its breaking point and refused to quit. It is the superhero that lives inside the mild-mannered reporter. Most people never meet their other self because they quit too soon. They talk themselves out of the struggle. They seek comfort in the herd. But you, in your silence, you have nowhere to hide. You have burned the boats. You are standing in the fire. And because you refuse to burn, you transform. The other self steps forward and takes the wheel. This other self knows no fear. It knows no limitation. It does not recognize the word impossible. It operates on a frequency of pure conviction. When the other self takes over, the work becomes effortless. You are no longer trying to succeed. You are being carried by a force of nature. You become a conduit for the infinite. This is the state where you write the book in a week, where you close the deal in a minute, where you see the solution that has been hiding in plain sight for years. This is the reward of the silence. You get to meet the person you were actually designed to be. But power requires balance. You cannot simply hoard this energy. You must circulate it. This brings us to the law of compensation. The universe keeps a perfect ledger. You cannot cheat the math of creation. If you want more, you must become more. You must give more. Hill called this going the extra mile. It is the habit of rendering more service and better service than you are paid to render, and doing it with a positive mental attitude. But in the modern world, people go the extra mile only when the camera is rolling. They perform generosity for the likes. They work late only if the boss is watching. The silent law demands that you go the extra mile when no one is watching. You over-deliver in the dark. You perfect the product not because the market demands it, but because your self-respect demands it. You help others without expecting a shout-out. You add value to every interaction, quietly, subtly, leaving every person you meet with the impression of increase. This invisible service builds up a credit in the bank of the infinite. You are making deposits that the world cannot see. And because the universe abhors a debt, it must pay you back. And it pays with compound interest. The opportunities that sudden appear, the luck that follows you, this is just the universe balancing the books. It is the back. Pay for the silent miles you walked while everyone else was sleeping. You become a person of value, not just a person of success. Success is what you get, value is what you are. When you are valuable, you are indispensable. The world will beat a path to your door, even if that door is hidden in the woods, because you have the thing they need. You have the gold of excellence. And now, we reach the final truth, the ultimate secret of the silent law. The purpose of the wealth, the purpose of the success, is not to separate you from humanity, but to empower you to serve it. The greatest paradox of silence is that it allows you to hear the needs of others. When you stop listening to your own ego, you start listening to the heartbeat of the world. You see the suffering. You see the gaps. You see the problems that need solving. Your fortune is the tool you use to solve them. You do not build the empire to sit on a throne. You build it to uplift the kingdom. But even in your giving, you maintain the silence. You practice the art of anonymous philanthropy. You give without the need for a plaque with your name on it. You give because the flow of energy must continue. If you hoard the gold, it rots. If you circulate it, it multiplies. You are now the master of the cycle. You draw power from the silence. You transmute it into wealth through action, and you return it to the world through service. You are a living engine of abundance. So, here is your command. Go back into the world. Walk among the noisy, the fearful, the drifting, but do not be of them. Carry your secret like a hidden blade. Let them talk, let them gossip, let them doubt. You have work to do. Wake up tomorrow before the sun. Step into the workshop of your mind. Lock the door and begin. Build the vision so clear that it hurts. Fuel the fire so hot that it purifies. Dig the tunnel so deep that it strikes the core. And when they ask you, how did you do it? When they look at your life with awe and envy, when they beg for the secret of your fortune, you will look them in the eye. You will smile the smile of the one who knows, and you will say nothing, for the results speak the only language that matters. Silence is your superpower. The silence is your fortress. The silence is your wealth. Now, go, and tell no one. As you stand in this new state of being, you begin to interact with the final and most immutable law of all cosmic habit force. This is the heavy hand of nature that takes whatever you repeat, whether it be fear or faith, noise or silence, and makes it permanent. For years, you may have been caught in the hypnotic rhythm of failure, where every time you tried to rise, your old habits of broadcasting your doubts and seeking validation pulled you back down like gravity. You were caught in a negative orbit. But by practicing the silent law, by holding your vision in the dark, by persisting through the fault lines, you have broken escape velocity. You have shattered the gravitational pull of your old life. Now, cosmic habit force begins to work for you. It takes your new discipline of silence, your new habit of action, your new standard of excellence, and it locks them in. It hardens your will into concrete. What was once a struggle becomes your nature. You no longer have to try to be confident. You simply are. You no longer have to force yourself to work. You are pulled by the magnificent gravity of your purpose. This is the moment the struggle ends. Not the effort. The effort never ends, but the struggle. The resistance fades. You are no longer swimming upstream. You have become the current. The things that used to trigger you, the criticism of small minds, the setbacks of the day, the noise of the news cycle, they simply pass through you like wind through a ghost. You are vibrating at a frequency where they cannot touch you. You have attained self-mastery. And the master needs no applause. Think of the mountain. It does not scream to prove it is high. It does not argue with the valley. It simply stands. Its height is a fact, not a claim. You are now the mountain. You have moved from the I hope of the child to the I am of the Creator. And in this high altitude, you realize that the silence was never just about keeping a secret. It was about listening to the infinite. It was about tuning out the static so you could hear the coordinates of your destiny. You have become a clear channel. The interference is gone. So, look at the road ahead. It is not paved with guarantees. It is paved with opportunities that are disguised as hard work. But you are no longer afraid of the work. You crave it. You know that every drop of sweat is a deposit in the vault of your future. You know that every moment of silence is a recharge of your soul. You have the master key. You hold it in your hand right now. It is the power to control your own mind. It is the only thing you truly own. Everything else, your money, your status, your possessions, can be taken away. But your mind, your ability to seal the lips, lock the door, and command the subconscious, that is yours forever. Use it. Do not let the world pry it from your grip. Do not let the drift lull you back to sleep. You are awake now. Stay awake. There will be times, even after you win, when the old urge to boast will rise up, when the ego will want to take the credit. Crush it. Remind yourself that you are just the instrument. Remind yourself that the power flows through you, not from you. Stay humble in the dark so you can be dangerous in the light. Your life is now a testament. It is a living, breathing proof that the philosophy works. You do not need to preach it. You do not need to sell it. You just need to live it. Let your life be the sermon. Let your bank account be the evidence. Let your peace of mind be the miracle. The world is waiting for leadership. It is starving for certainty. It is lost in a storm of noise and confusion. It is looking for a lighthouse. Be the lighthouse. But remember, the lighthouse does not run around the island looking for boats to save. It just stands there. It shines. It keeps its light focused. And the ships find it. Stand your ground. Shine your light. Keep your mouth shut and your mind open. You are the captain of your soul. You are the master of your fate. You have signed a contract with the infinite, and the ink is your own resolve. The days of drifting are over. The days of begging for approval are dead. The days of weak wishes and loud complaints are behind you. You have entered the era of the silent king, the silent queen, the architect of a reality that the world said was impossible. So, as you step away from this moment, as you go back into the noise of your day, carry this silence with you like a weapon. Carry it like a shield. Let it be the secret smile on your face when chaos erupts around you. Let it be the steady hand that steers the ship when the waves crash. You know the law. You know the way. You have the power. The seed is planted. The roots are deep. The harvest is sure. There is nothing left to say. There is only the work. There is only the becoming. Turn off the noise. Tune in the power. And watch the world bend to your will. Tell no one. Just win. This is your life. Make it a masterpiece. In silence.